Welcome to the Crypto Sphere. This is Cryptogenic coming at you. Today is Thursday, March 23rd at 10:23 a.m. here in Northern California. We have had some action on the Bitcoin chart over the last 24 hours. Yesterday morning, I actually recorded an entire video, but before I could get it edited and released, the market broke down and the analysis was somewhat obsolete. I will actually show you that analysis in a second. But the key to everything that I say today is this. We can summarize the entire video today with this. That when you see short-term volatility, you must contextualize it by looking at the long-term trends. And what we will find is that we see the oddities in the short-term volatility from yesterday, but the more we zoom out, the more clear things will become. So stick with me to the end of this video, because I'm going to start with the 1 hour chart and zoom out from the 1 hour to the 4 hour to the daily to the 3-day to the weekly. And by the time we get to the weekly, we'll have a much more clear perspective on where things are and where things could potentially be going. Before I jump into the technical analysis, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and let me know what you think after I get done with this video. Thanks so much. All right. Jumping into the 1 hour chart, what we could see is that I drew this target yesterday, and the way I drew this target is basically saying that we were in an ascending narrowing wedge, and if we chart the depth of that wedge, it should take us down to about 4.42%. And I was expecting, I just drew a line anywhere, but if we start here, I did not expect the breakdown at that point. But it could come at any time when you're in that type of a system. 4.42%. 4.42% gives us a target of about $26,940. The breakdown was so volatile that we exceeded that. And in actuality, if we just look from the top of the wick of this candle to the bottom of this candle, we saw a 7.65% dump in 2 hours. And then in 19 hours, we recovered from that dump, basically. That was crazy. That was absolutely nuts. But basically, we came back and retested the trend that we broke down from and then broke down from it again. We could draw this wedge like this, and it's still an ascending narrowing wedge. If we use kind of the tips, and look at that, we're breaking down from it. If I really want to just use the tips, I can use that tip and that tip, and it looks like we broke down from the wedge. Actually, this might actually be more accurate if we take the depths of this redrawn wedge. Let's see, this might be right on the money. 4.14. Look at that. You redraw it that way, it's exact. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? You redraw it that way. This, I'm convinced, just looking at it, is correct, using the tips of this ascending narrowing wedge. But now we've broken back into the wedge. It's almost like this whole thing didn't happen. But it's crazy to me that as volatile as that was, when you look at the analysis from this perspective, we hit the target exactly. From the perspective of the RSI, we topped out over here on March 19th, and we've just made 2 lower highs. That's all we've done. It's almost like this anomaly didn't change anything in terms of the projection and the direction. It was a temporary blip on the scale. So now, almost assuming that this whole thing didn't happen, I could go back to this analysis and say, if we were to break down again, let's say we were to break down again, I would chart the same depth and expect support to be just a bit higher. But I'm not going to draw that because I don't know where we're going to break down, or if we're going to break down, or if we're going to break out, because we can actually bounce from here and break bullish from here. And if we were to break bullish from here, my target would be about 4.37% above this. And just picking a point here, let's say we broke above it here, 4.37% would take us to about 30 grand. All right. So these are the prospects, either breaking down to about 27 grand or breaking out to about 30 grand. Anything is possible in this atmosphere of volatility, and this is what we're looking at. Same type of thing. Now, I drew this target here before this breakdown happened. I actually drew it in the video that I recorded yesterday morning, and then the very next candle, it dumped almost to that line, not quite to that line, but almost to that line, before I could actually publish the video. And so, but what we're looking at, and really what I said in that video, is that we're either breaking down to 26.4 or we're breaking out to 30,000, basically 31,000, 30,900, basically 31,000. You see in the RSI, it's bearish. We've been making lower highs. We broke down and then broke right back into the trend, almost as if nothing had happened. Make this a bit more precise by using the bottoms of this trend here. Now it looks like we're testing the bottom of the trend. Are we going to break down from the trend? First support is at 26.4. Second support is at 24,296. Let's kind of keep zooming out, and then I'll give you some conclusions by the time we get to the end of this. Once again, charted that we were making somewhat of an ascending narrowing wedge. We're seeing that on the 1 hour. We're seeing that on the 4 hour. We're seeing it on the daily as well. But the top of that wedge leads to about 29,363. Another way of getting that is saying that we were in this pattern here. The depth of it was 17.11%, and breaking above it gives us a measured objective of $29,363. And it seems like we're still moving upward towards that target. All right, so we could very well top out by hitting that measured objective of $29,363. Coming over here on the 3-day, zooming out just a little bit further, yesterday's volatility doesn't look like anything. It's like this candle and that candle are pretty much, this candle looks more volatile than the current candle we're in. The previous candle looks more volatile than the current candle. Then again, we've been in this candle less than 24 hours. Well, no, that happened within this candle. So, yeah, but all we're looking at on the 3-day is we're simply hugging the top of this trend line. And I think we can hug the top of this trend line. And I see two possibilities when I look at the 3-day chart. Either we top out at 30,000 and then we break down to come test about 24,000, or somewhere around the bottom of this trend line before we break out again and take a swipe at, breaking 32,000, breaking above the 200-week moving or the 200 moving average on the 3-day chart. So I think that would be healthy. Break out towards 30,000, come down and test 24,000 to break out again. Or we just break down towards 24,000 and then break out again and try to pick up some momentum, try to pick up some speed. But what we see is bearish divergence on the 3-day chart. We're making lower highs in the RSI while we're simultaneously making higher highs in the price. All we did in this breakdown is test the bottom of this trend. Just as we did in the price, we tested the bottom of the trend and we kept moving upward. So it's just a matter of how high is this going to go before it goes into a much-needed correction. That's the only question. And then finally, we get to the weekly chart. And what we see on the weekly chart is something a little different. We've broken above this trend, which gives us a measured objective of 38,000. And the question is, are we going to hit 38,000? What I'm seeing in the weekly is we could actually be bullish for quite a while. We can get temporary corrections, but we could actually be bullish for quite a while, or we could break down at any time. We're approaching the overbought position on the weekly chart, and when we hit the top, whatever point we start making bearish divergence on the weekly chart, where the RSI has obviously topped out and is beginning to break. I mean, we see here we're making higher highs. The RSI just topped out and started to move down. And when the RSI topped out and started to move down, what happened to the price? The price started to move down with it, right? However, we had bearish divergence first because really the RSI topped out over here on January 4th, 2021, and the price kept moving up. So from the time the RSI topped out over here, the price kept moving up for another 308 days. Now, look what's happened at the bottom of the RSI, okay? The RSI bottomed out here, but the price didn't bottom out until here, which means that the price kept moving down for 147 days after the RSI bottomed out. So here, the price kept moving up for 308 days after the RSI topped out, and here the price kept moving down for 147 days after the RSI bottomed out. So we know that basically the price is a lagging indicator. The RSI, when the RSI tops out, we see where the momentum has topped out, but the price is going to lag behind the RSI on the weekly chart. So I think we very well can see some bullish action for the next few months, but my thesis remains that we have not yet seen the bottom. My thesis remains that we have not yet seen the bottom. Why? Simple. When we hit the bottom here, there was no volume. And it just doesn't make sense to me that the big money is going to buy Bitcoin at an 80+% markup from the bottom. I mean, look at this. Right now, we are 83.43% from the bottom. And you're telling me that the big money, the big boys, is getting ready to come into the arena and buy it at an 85% markup? That doesn't make any sense to me. To me, it seems the big money is going to figure out how to tank it so that they can buy it at the bottom. But once again, that's my theory. That's my thesis. Who knows if it's true? We shall see. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. If you appreciated this content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this content. And check out my Patreon if you are interested in learning more about trading and seeing more charts from me and in seeing the cryptogenic portfolio. Patreon.com/cryptogenic. But remember, above all things, every resource that I create is designed to empower you to sleep in peace every night, wake in joy every morning, and walk in love every day. With that being said, this is Cryptogenic signing out.